Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call the Committee on Judiciary to order. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod.
Here.
Assemblywoman Cohen.
Here.
Assemblywoman Gonzalez. Assemblywoman Hanson. Assemblywoman Hardy.
Here.
Assemblywoman Kasama. Assemblywoman Krasner.
Here.
Assemblywoman Marzola.
Here.
Assemblyman Miller.
Here.
Assemblywoman Wynn.
Here.
Assemblyman O'Neill. Assemblyman Orntlicher.
Here.
Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong.
Here.
Assemblyman Wheeler.
Here.
Chairman Yeager.
Here. I'll note for the record that Assemblywoman Hanson has joined us as well. For the moment, please mark Assemblyman O'Neill absent excused. I believe he's presenting a bill over in Government Affairs, and he'll join us just as soon as he can. But until then, please mark him absent excused. That means we do have a quorum. Good morning to members, to the guests on the Zoom, and to those who might be watching on the legislature's website or the YouTube channel. Welcome to day 52 of the 81st session of the Nevada Legislature. Before we get started on this morning's agenda, just a few housekeeping matters to go over. If you are with us on the Zoom, please mute when you're not speaking. That'll help with the audio feedback. And if you're presenting a bill today or answering questions, if you could remember to state your name each time before you speak, that'll help our committee secretaries prepare accurate minutes. We do expect courtesy and respect in our interactions with one another. We don't always agree on policy. That's perfectly acceptable. We need to make sure we're being respectful of one another, the legislative process, and most importantly, our very hardworking staff. Finally, keep in mind that many members are using multiple devices to access this meeting, including extra monitors, iPhones, iPads. So please don't see it as a sign of disrespect. If members appear to be looking away, they're most likely accessing exhibits or notes to help them participate in the meeting. With that behind us, members, you'll see that we have quite a bit on our agenda today. Just so everyone kind of knows the lay of the land, we're going to try to breeze through this work session as quickly as possible so we can give folks a chance who are here just for the work session to jump off the Zoom and get on with their day. And then we'll take the bills, the one bill on our agenda at that point. So if you're here to present that bill, we just ask you for your patience as we get through this work session here this morning. And with that behind us, I'm going to open up the work session on the agenda, and we're going to take the bills in order as listed on the agenda. So at this time, I'll hand it over to Ms. Thornton to start with Assembly Bill 32.
Thank you, Chairman. Diane Thornton for the record. Let me just pull the work session up here. Our first bill on work session today is Assembly Bill 32, which revises provisions relating to a filing of a civil action regarding a motor vehicle. It was sponsored by this committee on behalf of the Nevada Supreme Court and heard in committee on March 9th. There is one amendment to this measure, sponsored by Assemblyman Miller and Honorable Chief Judge Melissa Zaragoza. And the amendment first clarifies that it's calendar days in the bill in Section 1. And secondly, it provides written notice that is sent by the operator to the registered owner of the vehicle. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Thornton. And before I open it up on this, I did want to thank Assemblyman Miller, who worked with Judge Zaragoza on that second part of the amendment. You might recall there was some discussion during the hearing about providing adequate notice. So I did confirm with the sponsor of the bill that both of those amendments are considered friendly. Any questions about Assembly Bill 32 as detailed on the work session document? Okay, don't see questions from any members. At this point, I'd be looking for a motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 32.
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion from Assemblyman Wheeler, a second from Vice Chair Wynn. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, I don't see discussion. Please recall, members, we'll be doing a roll call vote on this, and if you are in favor, please say yes. If you are not, please say no. Madam Secretary, would you please do a roll call vote on a motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 32?
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Cohen,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gonzalez, Assemblywoman Hanson,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hardy,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Kasama,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Krasner,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Marzola,
Yes.
Assemblyman Miller,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Wynne,
Yes.
Assemblyman Orntlicker,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong,
Yes.
Chairman Yeager.
Yes, and I'm not sure if I heard it for the audio. I wanted to give Assemblywoman Gonzalez a chance. I think she was a yes, but if you could just indicate for the record, please.
Yes, Assemblywoman Gonzalez, thank you. Sorry.
Okay, great. I thought I heard you, but I wasn't sure. So the motion does carry. Everyone present has voted yes. I'm going to assign the floor statement.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, go ahead, Assemblyman Wheeler.
I actually didn't vote. Someone forgot to call my name. Yes.
Thank you, Assemblyman Wheeler. So Assemblyman Wheeler is a yes as well. Thank you for interjecting there. So now we have a yes vote from everyone who is present, so the motion does carry. I'll assign the floor statement on Assembly Bill 32 to Assemblyman Miller. We'll move on to Assembly Bill 58. Ms. Thornton?
Assembly Bill 58 was sponsored by this committee on behalf of the Attorney General and heard in committee on March 16th. This bill makes changes relating to the authority and duties of the Attorney General. There is one amendment proposed to this bill by Attorney General Ford, and the amendment provides that a state of Nevada governmental authority or agent thereof shall not engage in a pattern or practice that deprives people of their rights, privileges, or immunities secured or protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States or this state. Secondly, it provides that a governmental authority be given up to 30 days to respond to the notification by the Nevada Office of the Attorney General of a claim that an agency has a pattern or practice of violating people's rights. Third, it requires that the Attorney General Office participate in any federal pattern or practice investigations of the Attorney General's Office. Fourth, it authorizes the Attorney General to file a civil action in a district court of competent jurisdiction where the governmental authority maintains its headquarters to enforce the terms of any agreement between the parties. Fifth, it deletes subsection 4 of section 1 of the bill. Next, it affords protections against reprisal or retaliation for persons who disclose prohibited patterns or practices of conduct. Seventh, it provides the conclusion of an investigation pursuant to this section that the Attorney General Office must issue a report. And lastly, Chair, it deletes sections 2 and 3 of the bill.
Thank you, Ms. Thornton. Any questions about Assembly Bill 58 as detailed on the work session document? I don't see questions. At this time, I'll take a motion to amend and do pass.
A motion to amend and do pass.
Do I have a
I'll
second?
second.
Okay, so I think I have a motion to amend and do pass from Assemblyman Miller, a second from Assemblywoman Gonzalez. Any discussion on the motion? I don't see any discussion. Madam Secretary, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Cohen,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gonzalez,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hanson,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hardy,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Kasama,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Krasner,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Marzola,
Yes.
Assemblyman Miller,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Wynne,
Yes.
Assemblyman O'Neill, Assemblyman Orntlicker,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong.
Yes.
I now apologize, Assemblyman Wheeler.
Yes, nice to see you remembered me. Thank you.
and Chairman Yeager.
Yes, the motion does pass. Everyone present voted yes. I will assign the floor statement on Assembly Bill 58 to Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong. That takes us to our next bill, which is Assembly Bill 104. Ms. Thornton, please.
Thank you, Chair. Assembly Bill 104 is sponsored by Assemblyman Yeager and heard in committee on February 19th. This bill revises provisions relating to wrongful convictions. There is one amendment to this measure. First, it clarifies in Section 3 of the bill the costs for which a claimant can be reimbursed. Secondly, it provides in Section 4 that the claimant must inform the state within 4 months of any other award of damages or settlement so the state can enact the offset provision and recover the appropriate funds. Third, it clarifies that the calculation of an award or settlement must not include an attorney's fees costs awarded in a previous or subsequent civil action. And lastly, it adds a new section requiring the approval of the State Board of Examiners before payment becomes effective.
Thank you, Ms. Thornton. Any questions about Assembly Bill 104 as detailed on the work session document? I don't see questions. Could I get a motion to amend and do pass, please?
Motion to amend and pass.
We had a lot of action there. I think I'll give the motion to Assemblywoman Kasama, and then I saw a second, I think, from Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod had raised her hand. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion on the motion, Madam Secretary, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Cohen,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gonzalez,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hanson,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hardy,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Kasama,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Krasner,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Marzola,
Yes.
Assemblyman Miller,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Nguyen,
Yes.
Assemblyman O'Neill, Assemblyman Orntlicker,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong,
Yes.
Assemblyman Wheeler,
Yes.
Chairman Yeager.
Yes. Motion carries. Everyone present voted in favor. I will take the floor statement on Assembly Bill 104. Moving right along, let's take Assembly Bill 149. Ms. Thornton?
Assembly Bill 149 was sponsored by Assemblywoman Peters and heard in this committee on March 3rd. This bill enacts provisions relating to cannabis independent testing laboratories. There is one proposed amendment to this measure. First, it strikes Section 2 and subsection 2 of Section 3 of the bill. It provides that the Cannabis Compliance Board maintain an electronic database using the seed to sale tracking software relating to the testing conducted on cannabis and cannabis products by the Cannabis Independent Testing Laboratories. Third, it requires the Cannabis Compliance Board to submit a report to the legislature annually. And lastly, it requires that the board adopt certain regulations regarding the data collected.
Thank you, Ms. Thornton. Any questions on Assembly Bill 149 as detailed in the work session document? I don't see questions. At this time, I'd taken a motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 149.
So moved to amend and do pass.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion from Vice Chair Nguyen. We have a second from Assemblyman Miller. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, Madam Secretary, please conduct a roll call vote.
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Cohen,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gonzalez,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hanson,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hardy,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Kasama,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Krasner,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Marzola,
Yes.
Assemblyman Miller,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Nguyen,
Yes.
Assemblyman O'Neill, Assemblyman Orntlicker,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong,
Yes.
Assemblyman Wheeler,
Yes.
Chairman Yeager.
Yes, motion carries. Everyone present voted in favor. I also note that we do have Assemblywoman Peters with us, who is the sponsor of the bill. So I'm going to assign the floor statement to Assemblywoman Peters. And just in case we need a backup, I'll have Assemblywoman Marzola listed as backup on Assembly Bill 149. Moving right along, Ms. Thornton, let's go next to Assembly Bill 158, please.
Thank you, Chair. Assembly Bill 158 was sponsored by Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno and heard in this committee on March 3rd. This bill revises the penalties for certain offenses involving alcohol or cannabis. And there are two proposed amendments to this measure. First, Assemblywoman Danielle Monroe Moreno proposed an amendment which revises the penalties in the bill to include not more than 24 hours of community service, attendance of a meeting of a panel of victims, and/or an evaluation to determine whether the person under 21 years of age has an alcohol or substance abuse disorder. It provides that the court must automatically seal all documents and send a copy of the order to each agency or officer named in the order. It amends NRS 62B.320 to provide that the juvenile court has exclusive original jurisdiction in proceedings concerning any child who commits an offense related to consuming or possessing alcohol and possessing 1 ounce or less of marijuana. It adds a new section in Chapter 62C for citations for offenses related to alcohol and marijuana. And it adds a new section to Chapter 62E for penalties for offenses related to alcohol or marijuana. The second proposed amendment is from Assemblyman Yeager. This amendment provides that if a person under 21 years of age who is charged with a violation refuses to sign a copy of the traffic citation, but physically receives the copy of the citation delivered by the peace officer, the receipt shall be deemed as personal serviced.
Is she on the phone?
Copy of the citation signed by the peace officer suffices as proof of service. And lastly, the peace officer shall not take the person into physical custody for the violation. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Thornton, and thank you to everyone who continued to work on this bill after the hearing. I think we got it to a good place where I believe everyone is on board. But that being said, I'm willing to entertain any questions on Assembly Bill 158 as detailed in the work session document, if there are any. I don't see questions, so I'd be looking for a motion to amend and do pass.
I'd move to amend and do pass.
I'll second.
We have a motion to amend and do pass from Vice Chair Nguyen, a second from Assemblywoman Gonzalez. Any discussion on the motion? Assemblywoman Hanson?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to thank Assemblywoman Danielle Monroe Moreno and Ms. Goins for their amendments, and I'm happy to support this bill. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And I just received a notification that Assemblyman Orentlicker wanted to be a co-sponsor on this bill. So Vice Chair Nguyen, would you be willing to amend your motion to amend and do pass to include that provision?
Of course, I'd amend and do pass with that provision as well to amend him onto it.
Thank you, Vice Chair Nguyen. Assemblywoman Gonzalez, are you still willing to second that motion?
Yes, I second.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So we have a clear record at least. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, Madam Secretary, please do a roll call vote for Assembly Bill 158.
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Cohen,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gonzalez,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hanson,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hardy,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Kasama,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Krasner,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Marzola,
Yes.
Assemblyman Miller,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Nguyen,
Yes.
Assemblyman O'Neill, Assemblyman Orentlicker,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong,
Yes.
Assemblyman Wheeler,
Yes.
Chairman Yeager.
Yes, motion does carry. Everyone present voted yes. Congratulations, Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno. And I will go ahead and give you the floor statement on the bill, and we'll list Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod as a backup just in case we need one. So again, thank you for your work on the bill. Greatly appreciated. So with that behind us, we're now going to move to Assembly Bill 182. Ms. Thornton, take it away, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Assembly Bill 182 was sponsored by Assemblywoman Tolles and heard in committee on March 5th. This bill revises the elements of the crime of advancing prostitution. There is one amendment sponsored by Assemblywoman Tolles, and it adds a co-sponsor to the bill.
Thank you, Ms. Thornton. Any questions about Assembly Bill 182 as detailed on the work session document? Assemblyman Orentlicker.
Thank you, Chair Yeager. Not a question, but a comment. I'm glad we're moving this bill, and I just hope we can continue to work on it because it's still not quite there in terms of aligning the language with the goals of it. So I want to keep this moving so we can pass it eventually, but hopefully we'll get the language right before it's final.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Any questions from other committee members on Assembly Bill 182? I do not see questions, so at this time I take a motion to amend and do pass.
Motion to amend and do pass.
Do I have a second? Okay, so I have a motion to amend and do pass from Assemblywoman Kasama, a second from Vice Chair Wynn. We have the prior comment from Assemblyman Orentlicker. Anybody else with discussion on the motion before we take the vote? Don't see any further discussion. Madam Secretary, I believe it's time for a roll call vote.
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Cohen,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gonzalez,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hanson,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hardy,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Kasama,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Krasner,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Marzola,
Yes.
Assemblyman Miller,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Wynn,
Yes.
Assemblyman O'Neill, Assemblyman Orentlicker,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong,
Yes.
Assemblyman Wheeler,
Yes.
Chairman Yeager.
Yes, motion carries. Everyone present voted yes. And I see we have our sponsor, Assemblywoman Tolles, with us here in committee. Congratulations. And I will assign you the floor statement on Assembly Bill 182. We'll list Assemblywoman Hanson as a backup just in case we need one. Moving right along. You're welcome. Moving right along, Ms. Thornton, let's take Assembly Bill 212 next.
Thank you, Chairman. Assembly Bill 212 was sponsored by Assemblywoman Anderson and heard in this committee on March 12th. This bill makes various changes related to court interpreters. There is one amendment proposed by Assemblywoman Anderson, and it requires that the committee to advise the court administrator regarding the regulations for court interpreters to submit an annual report to the Nevada Legislature, and also stipulates what the contents of the annual report should be. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Thornton. Any questions on Assembly Bill 212 as detailed in the work session document? Assemblywoman Cohen?
Chair? Yeah, I'm a little concerned about that. What section is that? It's the new language in the final paragraph. In fact, the final subsection of the final paragraph, the including information on the use of certified and registered interpreters if available. I thought that all interpreters in the courts had to be certified, and so I'm a little confused about what that report is.
So I think if I could jump in here, my recollection was there is certification for certain languages, more common languages, but there aren't certification programs necessarily for some of the more uncommon languages. So those individuals would still be registered with the court, but they don't have a certification because there isn't a test or a certification process for some of those languages.
Thank you. Sorry, I wasn't thinking about those languages. I was thinking of the more common ones. Thank you.
No, absolutely. It's a great question. Any other questions from committee members on Assembly Bill 212? Okay, don't see questions. I'll take a motion to amend and do pass.
A motion to amend and do pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Assemblyman Miller, a second from Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong. Any discussion on the motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I was going to make the motion, but I needed an interpreter and we don't have one available.
We don't have a certified one, at least. We probably have some registered ones, maybe. Thank you, Assemblyman Wheeler. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Cohen,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gonzalez,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hanson,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hardy,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Kasama,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Krasner,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Marzola,
Yes.
Assemblyman Miller,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Nguyen,
Yes.
Assemblyman O'Neill, Assemblyman Orntlicker,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong,
Yes.
Assemblyman Wheeler,
Yes,
Chairman Yeager.
Yes, motion carries. Everyone present voted in favor. I'm going to assign the floor statement to Assemblywoman Anderson, who sponsored the bill, and we'll list Assemblyman Orentlicker as a backup if needed. Committee, moving right along. We are almost there. So let's take Assembly Bill 214 next. Ms. Thornton?
Thank you, Chair. Assembly Bill 214 was sponsored by Assemblywoman Considine, and this bill revises provisions governing sexual assault. There are two proposed amendments to the bill which do the following. First, it deletes the language "that person" and replaces it with "themselves." And secondly, it adds a co-sponsor to the bill.
Thank you, Ms. Thornton. Are there any questions on Assembly Bill 214 as detailed in the work session document? Seeing no questions, I'll take a motion to amend and do pass.
I would move to amend and do pass.
I'll second that.
We have a motion from Vice Chair Wynn, a second from Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Cohen,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gonzalez,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hanson,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hardy,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Kasama,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Krasner,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Marzola,
Yes.
Assemblyman Miller,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Nguyen,
Yes.
Assemblyman O'Neill, Assemblyman Orentlicker,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong,
Yes.
Assemblyman Wheeler,
yes,
Chairman Yeager.
Yes, motion does carry. Everyone present voted in favor. Congratulations, Assemblywoman Considine. See you've joined us here on the Zoom, and I will assign you the floor statement for the bill, and we will assign Assemblywoman Krasner as a backup just in case we might need it. Okay, committee, just a couple more to go. Let's go next to Assembly Bill 237. Ms. Thornton?
Assembly Bill 237 was sponsored by Assemblywoman Houdegy and heard in this committee on March 19th. This bill revises various provisions relating to real property. There is one amendment proposed by Assemblywoman Houdegy, and the amendment does the following. First, it deletes Section 1 of the bill. Secondly, it deletes the requirement in NRS 116.4109 that the Commission for Common Interest Communities and Condominium Hotels must adopt regulations establishing a fee for preparing the certificate included in the resale package. and instead specifies that the cost for the certificate must not exceed $185 and the cost to expedite the preparation of the certificate must not exceed $100. Third, it amends NRS 116.4109 by prohibiting an association or related entity from requiring any additional fees not specifically authorized or required by statute. Fourth, it provides that the fee in NRS 116.3102 may increase on an annual basis in accordance with the Consumer Price Index. Fifth, it amends Chapter 116 of NRS by authorizing the Commission for Common Interest Communities and Condominium Hotels to impose a fine of not more than $250 on any association for any fee violations by the association. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Thornton. Any questions on Assembly Bill 237 as detailed in the work session document?
Chair, I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Yeager. When we're talking about the Consumer Price Index, we do have a specific one for the Western states. And if Assemblywoman Houdegy is on the call, I would suggest or make a suggestion that we attach it to this area and not the United States in general, so that it can be more in keeping with our region.
We do have Assemblywoman Houdegy on the Zoom with us. Assemblywoman Houdegy, would you like to address that?
Yes, Chair Yeager, thank you so much for the question and the suggestion, Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong. What we did was we modeled what was already in NRS.
Thank you.
So what I'll do, just to sort of be clear, I'll take a motion on the bill as presented in front of us. But if the two of you want to continue to have further discussions about that, of course, the bill would have to go through the Assembly floor and the Senate as well. So we just encourage you to keep working on that issue as we move things along. Any other questions on Assembly Bill 237 as detailed in the work session document? Seeing no additional questions, I'll take a motion to amend and do pass.
I move to amend and do pass.
I think we had a motion to amend and do pass from Vice Chair Wynn. Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong, did you make the second? If you give me a thumbs up. Okay, so that I thought I heard a second there, so we'll have the second from Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong. Any discussion on the motion? I don't see any discussion. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Cohen,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gonzalez,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hanson,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hardy,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Kasama,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Krasner,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Marzola,
Yes.
Assemblyman Miller,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Wynn,
Yes.
Assemblyman O'Neill, Assemblyman Orentlicker,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong,
Yes.
Assemblyman Wheeler,
Yes.
Chairman Yeager.
Yes, motion carries. Everyone present voted in favor. Congratulations, Assemblywoman Houdegy. I'm going to assign you the floor statement on the bill, and we'll list Assemblywoman Cohen as a backup just in case we need it.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee.
Thank you. Okay, committee, one last bill to get through. Assembly Bill 241. Ms. Thornton?
Thank you, Chairman. Assembly Bill 241, sponsored by Assemblywoman Gonzalez and heard in committee on March 15th. This bill establishes provisions governing credits on terms of imprisonment during certain declarations of emergency. There is an addendum to this work session document that was posted and also sent out to committee members. So there is one amendment to this measure. The amendment is sponsored by Victoria Gonzalez, Executive Director of the Department of Sentencing Policy. The amendment does the following. It amends subsection 2 of section 3 of the bill by adding the Department of Sentencing Policy as one of the entities to receive the report prepared by the Director of Department of Corrections. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Thornton. everybody got bigger on the Zoom all of a sudden, so we must have some folks drop off. It's good to see you all a little bit more clearly. Any questions on Assembly Bill 241? Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod.
Thank you, Chair. I did not see the amendment, and I apologize for that. I just wanted to make sure with the sponsor that it is a friendly amendment.
Assemblywoman Gonzalez, District 16, thank you so much. Yes, it is a friendly amendment, and I did agree to it. Thank you for checking.
Thank you. Good question. I should have mentioned that before we open up for questions. Any other questions on Assembly Bill 241? Assemblyman Wheeler?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our caucus is still talking to the DOC director on this. We had some questions on it, so we will all be voting yes to get out of committee, but there's a change in that, Mr. Chairman. We will let you and the bill sponsor know.
Thank you so much, Assemblyman Wheeler. Appreciate that heads up. Any other questions? Okay, don't see questions. At this time, I'll take a motion to amend and do pass.
And move to amend and do pass.
Okay, I think we had a motion to amend and do pass from Vice Chair Wynn. I saw Assemblywoman Gonzalez get in there with a second right before Assemblyman Orentlicker, I believe. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Wickham, we're in the discussion portion, but is there, perhaps I could ask you to take any concerns sort of offline, because we're past the motion at this point, so we're beyond testimony at this moment. Any discussion from members of the committee on Assembly Bill 241? Okay, I don't see discussion on the motion. Madam Secretary, would you please do a roll call vote?
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod?
Yes.
Assemblywoman Cohen?
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gonzalez?
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hanson?
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hardy?
Yes.
Assemblywoman Kasama?
Yes.
Assemblywoman Krasner?
Yes.
Assemblywoman Marzola?
Yes.
Assemblyman Miller?
Yes.
Assemblywoman Wynn?
Yes.
Assemblyman O'Neill? Assemblyman Orentlicker?
Yes.
Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong?
Yes.
Assemblyman Wheeler?
Yes.
Chairman Yeager?
Yes, the motion does pass. Everyone voted in favor. Congratulations, Assemblywoman Gonzalez. I'll assign you the floor statement on the measure. I think that takes us through the work session documents. Thank you, committee members, for helping us get through that in a timely fashion. Before we move on to the bill hearing, we do have one other order of business, and that is committee bill introductions. I have 4 Assembly Judiciary Committee bills in front of me here, and I will list them off. If everyone is going to be a yes, we could simply take one motion to pass them all at the same time. If that's not going to be the case, we can take them separately, but let me list them off so everybody knows what we're dealing with. So I have BDR 14-484, makes various changes relating to criminal justice. BDR 15-1042 makes various changes relating to the use of deadly force. BDR S-1036 requires the Legislative Counsel Bureau to enter into an agreement with a qualified consultant to analyze data submitted to the Legislative Counsel Bureau concerning traffic stops and other stops. And we have BDR 15-580 abolishes capital punishment. So those are the 4 that we have in front of us. And I guess before I take a motion, I'll just ask, is there anybody intending to vote no? And again, this is a committee bill introduction, so a yes vote does not commit you to supporting the measure. It simply allows it to be drafted, come back to committee, and then of course it would maybe have a hearing like we do with other bills, or when you'd be able to ask questions and register your support or opposition. So again, just want to ask if there's anyone out there who would like me to take these individually versus one motion. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody ask, so at this time I would take a motion to introduce the 4 BDRs that I just listed.
I would move to introduce those 4 BDRs as listed.
I second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Vice Chair Nguyen, a second from Assemblywoman Gonzalez. Any discussion on the motion? I don't see discussion. Again, committee, this will be a roll call vote. Yes, please signify either yes or no. Madam Secretary, one last roll call vote this morning, please.
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Cohen,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gonzalez,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hanson,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hardy,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Kasama,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Krasner,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Marzola,
Yes.
Assemblyman Miller,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Nguyen,
Yes.
Assemblyman O'Neill, Assemblyman Orentlicker,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong,
Yes.
Assemblyman Wheeler,
Yes.
Chairman Yeager.
Yes, the motion does carry. Everyone who is here voted in favor. Thank you, committee, for letting us do that in one motion. I think it saved us a little bit of time this morning. Okay, so with that behind us, if you give me a chance to find my agenda in the stack of paperwork. Okay, we are ready for our bill hearing of our one bill on the agenda. At this time, I'll open up the hearing on Assembly Bill 342. Assembly Bill 342 makes various changes relating to offenders. We have Senator Spearman here to present the bill, and I believe she has some backup as well, including Chair DeRico from the Parole Board. So welcome to the two of you to the Assembly Judiciary Committee. We'll give you a chance to make your presentation, then I'm sure we'll have some questions. So welcome, and please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Yeager and committee members, and thank you for the opportunity to present Assembly Bill 342. For the record, I am Pat Spearman, representing Senate District 1 in Clark County. Assembly Bill 342 was requested by the Sunset Committee of the Legislative Commission, and it was my pleasure to serve as the chair of that subcommittee during the 2019 and 2020 interim. With me today is Christopher DeRico, Chair of the State Board of Parole Commissioners, and he will be providing the bulk of the presentation, as the measure was requested by him on behalf of the board. First, I would like to provide a brief background before turning it over to Mr. DeRico. On January 10, 2020, at the first meeting of the subcommittee, this interim, the committee chose 15 entities to be reviewed during the interim, and one of those was the State Board of Parole Commissioners. The subcommittee chose to review the board largely because it had never been reviewed by the subcommittee in previous interims. The subcommittee reviewed the board on February 21st, 2020. During that review, Mr. DeRico presented the proposed legislative changes ultimately included in AB 342. On August 31st, 2020, the subcommittee voted unanimously to recommend to the Legislative Commission a bill draft request with the provisions recommended by the board. There is really no fiscal impact attached to Assembly Bill 342, and I am not aware of any amendments. Mr. Chair, with your permission, I'd like to turn this over for the presentation over to Mr. DeRico, as the Sunset Committee requested this legislation on the board's behalf. And I would also request that you all would understand I have Commerce and Labor going on, and I want to get back to chairing my committee as well, if that's okay.
Thank you so much, Senator Spearman. First, just appreciate your work in the interim chairing the Sunset Subcommittee, and certainly understand you have other obligations. So thank you for joining us here this morning, and please feel free to get back over to your committee. I'm sure that I lost my train of thought there. Mr. DeRico can handle any questions that might come up on the measure. So thank you, Senator.
Thank you. It's that time of the year.
I understand fully. Chair DeRico, welcome back to the Assembly Judiciary Committee, and please proceed with the presentation when you're ready.
Great, thank you. Good morning, Chair Yeager, Vice Chair Nguyen, and all members of the Assembly Committee on Judiciary. My name is Chris DeRico, and I'm the Chairman of the Board of Parole Commissioners. Before I start, I would especially like to thank Senator Spearman and all the members of the Sunset Subcommittee for assisting us with this proposed legislation. I appreciate this opportunity to provide you an overview of AB 342. I know your time is valuable, so I'm going to just dig right in. In its present form, Section 1 of this bill, specifically subsection 6 of NRS 213.10885, requires the board to comprehensively review the standards adopted by the board on or before January 1 of each odd-numbered year. The board has used a validated risk instrument since 2003. The parole risk instrument was created based on the recidivism measure of a new felony conviction within 3 years of release from incarceration. In order to properly assess the adopted standards that are in place, at least 3 years of data review is necessary. The board contracts with an outside consultant, JFA, to perform the revalidation of these standards. This process requires the consultant to review at least 3 years of data, perform the assessment, analyze the results, and prepare a report with a recommendation to the board. The board then needs time to review the consultant's recommendation and either adopt and or modify the standards and approve this at a board meeting. Once approved, the board must then work with the Department of Corrections to make appropriate changes to the approved revalidated instrument in the Nevada Offender Tracking Information System, which is called NOTICE, before it can be implemented. This process can take between 4 and 5 years. The cost to perform this revalidation has ranged anywhere from $20,000 to $25,000 for each revalidation. The requested amended language is to change subsection 6 of NRS 213.10885 to remove the following: on or before January 1 of each odd-numbered year, and replace it with at least every 5 years. If this is approved, the required 3 years of data required by the consultant to properly assess the adopted standards will be made available, and the $25,000 for the consultant review will only be requested when necessary. If this amended language fails to pass, the board will continue to request $25,000 in the first fiscal year of the biennium, and if 3 years of data has not been obtained, the review will not be completed and the $25,000 will be reverted back to the general fund. And I would like to ask Chair Yeager, because as a part of this bill in AB 342, this section and sections 2 and 3 are distinctly different. It might be best if there are any questions with regard to this particular section, and so they don't get convoluted for each other, I ask if that might be appropriate at this time.
Yes, thank you so much, Chair DeRico. So we'll take questions on that particular section about the at least once every 5-year review. Are there questions on that section as just explained by Chair DeRico? Okay, Chair, I'm not seeing questions at this time, so let's go ahead with the rest of the presentation, and there may end up being questions towards the end, but at least we had an opportunity there for a moment.
Great, thank you. So moving on with AB 342, I want to start to discuss Section 2 of this bill, which refers to NRS 213.1243, which is presently in effect. According to statute, the board shall establish a program of lifetime supervision of sex offenders to commence after any period of probation or any term of imprisonment and any period of release on parole. Under current law, the parole board sets the conditions for lifetime supervision for a convicted sex offender. This generally occurs 90 days or so before an individual is about to complete their sentence for the qualifying sex offense, which means these conditions of lifetime supervision may not be imposed for 1, 2, 5, or even 10 or more years after an individual is sentenced. After the parole board sets these conditions, this is generally the last interaction the board has with these particular cases, unless there's a request to modify a condition of lifetime supervision for a sex offender, as any violations of lifetime supervision are considered a new crime and are decided by a district court judge. So here's an example. Here's why I believe the way lifetime supervision conditions are imposed can be improved. For example, In a case where a district judge imposes probation, and later there are alleged violations of probation, the probation violations are heard back before the district court judge who imposed that probation. For a parole case, the parole board sets the conditions of parole, and later, if there are alleged violations of parole, these violations are heard back before the parole board who set those conditions of parole. However, the way things stand now for lifetime supervision of sex offenders, the parole board imposes the conditions of release, but if they allegedly violate, which is a new criminal offense, this determination is made by the district court judge. So essentially, the parole board sets the conditions on cases where they will not determine any future violations. The court makes this determination. These changes that I have included in here were modeled after what occurs in the United States court system or the federal system. They do just what I'm proposing here. They will sentence an individual for an underlying sex offense, and following this, at the same sentencing hearing, a judge will impose the conditions of lifetime supervision to follow upon completion of the underlying offense. In my opinion, this just streamlines everything. With that said, I believe it would be better if it's sentencing for a qualifying sex offense that the district court judge impose the sentence right there and then after they impose the sentence for the underlying crime. After doing so, they would indicate something on record that would be to the effect of, upon completion of your underlying term, you are also ordered to serve a period of lifetime supervision with the following conditions as enumerated in what is proposed in Section 3 of this bill, which is NRS 176.0931. Here's a particular note I want to make on this. The language proposed in Section 3 of this bill, which I stated is NRS 176.0931, it mirrors what is already in place in Section 2 of this bill, which references NRS 213.1243, which the parole board, the conditions that the parole board presently imposes. So there's no change to language. There is no added. It's basically transfer of duties moving forward with the same conditions. By imposing these lifetime supervision conditions at sentencing, the court will have the most relevant data on the case. The district attorney will be present, as well as the public defender or any retained counsel. Any questions regarding these imposed conditions could be discussed at the time of sentencing while the issue is fresh. This will only add a few minutes of time to each sentencing hearing for an underlying conviction for a sex offense, and no additional hearings will be necessary to impose these conditions. It's just a shift moving forward of how these conditions would be imposed. In essence, it does not make a great deal of sense for the parole board to set conditions that it cannot enforce. This will provide greater efficiency and less cost to the state when setting these conditions. So here's an important aspect of how this bill is worded. The parole board will continue to set conditions of release for anyone sentenced prior to July 1, 2021, which means that we will still be doing this for many years to come. We did not want the district courts to have to add any other hearings in order to set these conditions, which would take additional time of district attorneys, public defenders, any victims that may show up in a case. This is why it was all combined to be ordered right there at sentencing. But cases that have already been sentenced, that's okay. We understand that the only way to best move forward would be for us to continue to handle these until they are eventually weeded out many years down the road. So essentially, Section 3 of this bill shifts those duties moving forward. And with that said, I'll conclude my presentation, and I'm willing to answer any questions that anybody may have.
Thank you so much, Chair DeRico. I'm going to ask for your patience for just a second because I received another committee BDR while you were giving your presentation. So for the moment, I'm going to suspend this hearing and just allow us as a committee to take care of this quick item of business so we can get this bill down to the floor. So just please sit tight for a moment, committee members. And so, and by the way, I said we had our last roll call vote. I was wrong about that because here we are with another committee BDR. So the BDR I have in front of me is BDR 3-1046. It provides that members of a mobile crisis response team are immune from civil liability under certain circumstances. And before I take a motion, I'll note for the record that Assemblyman O'Neill joined us during Chairman DeRico's presentation. Assemblyman O'Neill, we hope things went well for you over in Government Affairs, and welcome to Assembly Judiciary this morning. So again, on this committee BDR, you're not agreeing to support the bill. It just allows it to be drafted. So I'll take a motion to introduce BDR
Mr. Chair.
3-1046. We have a motion from Assemblyman Wheeler. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Vice Chair Wynn. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, could you please conduct a roll call vote?
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Cohen,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gonzalez,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hanson,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hardy,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Kasama,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Krasner,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Marzola,
Yes.
Assemblyman Miller,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Wynn,
Yes.
Assemblyman O'Neill,
Yes.
Assemblyman Ortlicker,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong,
Yes.
Assemblyman Wheeler,
Yes.
Chairman Yeager.
Yes, the motion does pass unanimously. Thank you, committee. We will now go back to our hearing on Assembly Bill 342. Chairman DeRico had just finished presenting. And before I open it up for some additional questions, Chairman, I just wanted to ask a couple clarifying questions based on the presentation. So my recollection was the way that it works now under current law is when one of these individuals is sentenced in district court, normally the judge would impose the sentence and then they would say something to the effect of, you are also sentenced to a special condition of lifetime supervision, and then just leave the actual conditions of lifetime supervision to be given by the parole board, I guess at the time of parole. So I want to confirm with you that that's accurate in terms of how it works right now.
Yes, thank you, Chair Yeager. Chris DeRico for the record. So you are correct. At the imposition of sentence, the court would order the sentence of lifetime supervision. However, what does not occur at that time is the imposition of those conditions of lifetime supervision. So those for the convicted sex offender. So what would happen? We know down the road as a part of the judgment that an individual was sentenced to a term of lifetime sex offender supervision. But that's where it takes many years down the road, until a person may satisfy their term of probation, complete an incarceration term, or complete a parole term. Once they get close to that, that's where the parole board would then impose those conditions. So as a result of what is being requested here, it's right when that judge imposes, and to follow your underlying offense, you are placed on lifetime supervision, to then just at that time also include, and here are the conditions of lifetime supervision.
Thank you, Chairman. That makes sense. And then the other just clarifying question is you had mentioned in Section 3 of the bill, in the bill itself, there's a lot of blue language, which normally means new language. But in this particular case, you'd indicated that this is language that already exists. It's just being moved into a different part of NRS. But the blue language in Section 3 basically details what is already permissible under statute as a condition of lifetime supervision.
Thank you, Chair Yeager. Chris DeRico for the record. Yes, you're absolutely correct. Last night I had a very busy evening of emails and phone calls regarding this, and that language is exactly it. It mirrors what is already in place, but it's new language under NRS 176, and so that's why there's so much, of course, we'll say blue language there. It's not new. If you go back in above and you look at NRS 213.1243, you will see that language mirrors what's in place already. It's just a shifting of duties to try and streamline and be more efficient in this matter.
Thank you, Chair DeRico. Do we have other questions for Chair DeRico on Assembly Bill 342? think I have everyone on one screen. Any questions about the bill? It means I may have asked the ones that you all had as well. So maybe I saved a little bit of time this morning. So Chair DeRico, I don't see further questions at this time. So I'll ask you to sit tight for a moment. We'll take some testimony on the bill and then we'll come back to you for any wrap up that you might have on the bill.
Thank you so much.
So at this time, I'll open it up for testimony in support of Assembly Bill 342. Do we have anybody on the Zoom with us who'd like to testify in support of the bill? If so, could you please turn your camera on, unmute, and indicate that you'd like to speak? I don't see any activity on the Zoom. BPS, could we go to the phone lines to see if there's anybody there who'd like to offer supportive testimony?
Good morning. Thank you, Chair. For callers wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 342, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. For callers wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 342, please press star 9 now. Chair, there are no callers in support at this time.
Thank you, BPS. I will close testimony in support. I will now open testimony in opposition. Is there anyone on the Zoom who'd like to testify in opposition to the bill? I don't see any activity here on the Zoom. BPS, could we go to the phone lines to see if there's anybody there in opposition?
Thank you. For callers wishing to testify in opposition, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. We will begin with caller with the last 3 digits of 611. Caller, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning, Chairman Yeager and members of the Assembly Judiciary Committee. This is John Piro, Johnpiro from the Clark County Public Defender's Office. I'd like to thank Chairman DeRico for spending time talking to me late at night about this bill. We are not opposing the intent of the bill. We're just opposing some of the ways that the bill is worded and how it would get to accomplish that intent. So we're hoping that we could sit down with Chairman DeRico in the future, work out some of the language in the bill to actually accomplish the intent that he is seeking to accomplish. We don't necessarily object to having courts enumerate the conditions of lifetime sentence supervision at sentencing. I do like his faith in the courts to get these hearings done efficiently. I don't know that in practice that will be what happens, but still we have no objection to that particular thing going forward. So hopefully we can work out some of the language so it accomplishes the intent. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Piro. BPS, are there other callers in opposition?
Yes, thank you, Chair. We will go with caller with the last 3 digits of 389. Caller, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the Judiciary Committee. My name is Jennifer Noble, Jennifer Noble, and I am testifying on behalf of the Nevada District Attorneys Association. Pursuant to committee rules, we are testifying in opposition to AB 342 this morning, but I do want to sincerely thank Chair DeRico for speaking with me last night regarding some of our concerns on the bill's language. We certainly do not have an issue with the bill's intent, as explained by Chair DeRico this morning, but we are worried that the language doesn't clearly reflect that intent. Specifically, we want to make sure that Section 3 clearly reads that imposition of lifetime supervision conditions that will apply once the offender is paroled will occur simultaneously as the imposition of sentence, so that no separate hearing is needed. Otherwise, the bill would implicate additional hearings that could adversely affect our offices in terms of staffing, et cetera. We're also concerned about the implications of NRS 213.1243 sub 9, which is existing law. It's a provision regarding exemption from supervision conditions in extraordinary circumstances. As written, the bill would move that analysis from the parole board hearing to the more adversarial venue of a district court hearing, which could have perhaps unintended consequences. But we are really looking forward to working with Senator Spearman, Chair DeRico, and all the stakeholders on language that addresses concerns that have been expressed here today. That concludes my testimony. Thanks so much.
Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Noble. Anybody else in opposition to Assembly Bill 342?
Next caller with the last three digits of 318. Caller, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning, Chair Yeager and members of the Assembly Judiciary. This is Kendra Birchie, Kendra Bertschy, with the Washoe County Public Defender's Office. Like those in opposition before me, our office supports the intention of this bill, but we are concerned with, as written, the additional motion practice, the litigation, and hearings that it would necessitate in district court, which also then comes with it the possible appellate rights. And so due to the additional workload, there would be a fiscal impact on my office. I'll save that information for later if we're unable to change the wording of the statute or of this bill in order to accurately reflect the intention. We appreciate Chair DeRico for his hard work with meeting with stakeholders, especially late at night, to be able to address some of our questions, and we hope to continue that work in order to ensure that we are crafting language that reflects the intention of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Birchie. BPS, are there other callers in opposition?
Yes. Next caller with the last three digits of 037. Caller, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Tanya Brown, TONJABROWN, advocates for the inmates and the innocent. We oppose this bill. We do echo the comments made by the previous callers and would like to thank those bringing this forward, but I think it needs more work. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Brown. BPS, are there other callers in opposition?
Callers wishing to testify in opposition of Assembly Bill 342, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no more callers in opposition.
Thank you, BPS. I will close opposition testimony. I will now open neutral testimony. Anybody on the Zoom with us who'd like to testify in neutral? If so, please turn your camera on, unmute, and let me know. I don't see any activity on the Zoom. BPS, could we go to the phone lines to see if there's anybody there who would like to give neutral testimony?
Thank you, Chair. For callers wishing to testify in neutral of Assembly Bill 342, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. For callers wishing to provide neutral testimony of Assembly Bill 342, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the public line is open and working, and there are no callers at this time.
Thank you, BPS. I will close neutral testimony, and we'll now go back to Chairman DeRico with any concluding remarks on Assembly Bill 342.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So a lot of the concerns, at least the closing remarks I have, has to do with the language and to make sure the intent of the bill or of what I'm looking for is occurs. So yeah, I look forward to working with the other individuals that I've spoken with on this to kind of streamline this process. I did want to just close by saying, if ultimately this doesn't move forward, which I'm hoping that it does, Section 1 of this bill is still particularly important to the parole board, and I think it's something that does save the state money as well, instead of having to give us money and then keep giving it back. So with that, I'll close for today unless anybody has any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair DeRico. And, I just want to say thank you to those who called in. I know bills are coming out fast and furious, and we're having hearings perhaps more quickly than any of us would like to. So I definitely appreciate folks reaching out to the sponsor and being willing to talk about these things even late into the night. Certainly understand going forward that we're going to have bills that still need a little bit of work, but it's important that we get through the hearings and be able to keep moving forward. So thank you for being willing to do that, Chair DeRico, and for those who called in opposition. I know there were several discussions last evening, and I certainly appreciate you looping me into the fact that those discussions were happening. So with that, Chair DeRico, thanks for joining us this morning. We hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. Thanks to all of you.
So I'll close the hearing on Assembly Bill 342. That takes us to our next item on the agenda, which is public comment. By way of reminder, we reserve up to 30 minutes for public comment at the end of each meeting. Commenters on the public comment line will have 2 minutes to provide public comment. Public comment is a time to raise matters of a general nature within the jurisdiction of the Assembly Judiciary Committee. EPS, could we go to the public comment line and see if there's anybody there who'd like to give public comment this morning?
Yes, thank you, Chair. For callers wishing to provide public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. For callers wishing to provide public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 037. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Tanya Brown, TONJABROWN, Advocates for the Inmates and the Innocent. We would just like to say thank you very much. We appreciate you passing these bills in the work session, and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment, Ms. Brown. BPS, is there anybody else for public comment this morning?
Callers wishing to provide public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers at this time.
Thank you, BPS. I just wanted to confirm, it looks like I have Ms. Grant registered and on the public comment line. Could we just check one more time to make sure she doesn't want to give public comment this morning?
Definitely. For callers wishing to provide public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 556, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Anne Marie Grant, ANNEMARIE GRANT. My brother was 38 years old when he was killed by Reno police and Washoe County sheriffs during a mental health crisis. Today I'd like to read a little bit of a letter from Carol Luke, who is the mother of Thomas McInery, who was killed by Las Vegas Metro on November 24, 2015. My son was more than an OIS victim of LVMPD. He was a father, a brother, an uncle, a friend to many. He would do anything for his family. He would pick up his sister from work whenever she needed, and he helped his other sister raise her daughter and gave her a place to stay when she needed. He was my biggest support system through some of the most difficult times in my life. My son was diagnosed with bipolar as a child and schizophrenia around 2010. However, he was able to come almost all adversaries. He did not let his mental diagnosis dictate who he was. He successfully opened and operated various businesses. He was able to father his beautiful children. We were more than a mother and son. His 3 children remind me so much of my son, Thomas. I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse because it affects me. On the night of November 24, 2015, my son was driving a car, but the license plates were registered to another car he owned. Therefore, it was classified as cold-plated. Within 1 minute of arrival on scene, Thomas was shot 8 times by 3 officers and was assassinated. I'd like to point out the issues of my son's case, which is grounds for reopening and reinvestigating of LVMPD, to include Officer Kyle Pryor, Officer Robert Nord, and Officer Donald Sutton in Las Vegas DA's office as well. Although video and autopsy reports show the tase was successful, Pryor claimed in his report it was unsuccessful, and LVMPD even stated to various news sources the same lie. Officer Pryor was involved in another officer-involved shooting in June of 2016, and in that case, he claimed his tase failed to work as well. In the security guard statement, he said, "My son never had a gun in his hands. However, he did see something lit up, and it looked like a phone or tablet." Thomas's mother has the bullet-riddled iPad Thomas had that night. After the officer shot my son, they still handcuffed him, moved his body, and failed to restore immediate medical attention and failed to call for medical professionals. I'd briefly like to read something from Thomas's sister, L.J. Radney. As my mother previously mentioned, my brother Thomas had been diagnosed with a mental health disorder as a child, so those two facts alone can show how Thomas was neglected by the state of Nevada at an early age in life because of the lack of care Nevada has for those who are not neurotypical. Thomas is missed by his family and his loved ones, just like my brother is missed by so many. Please support bills that promote transparency and accountability, and thank you all for your hard work.
Thank you for your public comment, Ms. Grant. BPS, is there anybody else who'd like to give public comment this morning?
Yes, Chair. For caller with the last three digits of 536, caller, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hi, my name is Taylor Thompson, Taylor, last name Thompson, and I am calling today to ask the committee to hear Assembly Bill 161. By the end of the month, 500,000 Nevadans are going to be at risk of eviction when the CDC's memorandum has expired. The least this committee can do is please hear the bill, to at least give families a due process before they are evicted from their homes. Ending summary evictions is not really a bold concept. It's something that is pretty standard across 49 states. We seem to be the only one with these very strange eviction, summary evictions. And just would like the committee to please hear Assembly Bill 161. Thank you for your time. Again, please consider hearing the bill. Have a great day.
Thank you for your public comment, Mr. Thompson. BPS, anybody else for public comment this morning?
For callers wishing to provide public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no further callers at this time.
Thank you, BPS. As always, appreciate your help in making these meetings run smoothly. I will close public comment. I don't see any other committee BDRs in front of us. So before we talk about the rest of the week, anything else from our hardworking committee members this morning? I don't see anything. Thank you all again for helping us get through that agenda very quickly. In terms of where we go from here, we do have agendas out now for Thursday and Friday. Tomorrow we're going to be starting at 9 o'clock. So you can get here at 8, but we won't start until 9. And we have 4 bills on the agenda tomorrow, but 3 of those I think we'll be hearing all at the same time because they are very similar, if not the same. And then Friday we have an agenda out, and just to mix things up a little bit, we'll be starting at 8:30 on Friday. So not 8 o'clock, not 9 o'clock, but 8:30. We have 2 bills that we'll be hearing on the agenda Friday. So that's what we've got for now. I anticipate we're going to have committee meetings every day next week. We're just kind of putting those together as we speak. So again, committee, thank you. It's an honor to chair this committee every morning and to see all of you. I will see you back here tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. This meeting is adjourned.